This is Adam from Retro Repairs. Before I get into this video, I wanted to take a few moments to thank everyone who's been watching my shows. Really means a lot to me. I see that my channel now has over 25,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. I really wasn't expecting that to happen in only a year. All these views and all the likes and all the subscriptions really help me to get more views on my videos, which really makes it worth it to me. It lets me know that people are enjoying what I'm making, and that's what keeps me going here. So I want to try and give a little bit back to you guys. So starting now until the end of January, I'm going to be hosting a giveaway. How you enter is pretty simple. I need you to follow me on Twitter. It's repairs_retro. I'm going to post a link in the description below. You also have to be a subscriber to my channel. If you're both of those, I'm going to put a tweet out shortly with some information about the giveaway. What it's going to be is for a Super Famicom system. I'm going to give you the whole system with the plugins that you need, as well as I'm going to give you your choice of one of 3 boxed games. I have Romancing Saga, I have Chrono Trigger, and I have Super Battle Tanks. All of these are in pretty good condition. They all work, and they're all pretty good games. So I'm going to let you choose which one you want. So again, you're going to follow me on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing to my channel, and then when I post the instructions on Twitter, listen to whatever that says, and that's going to tell you exactly how you enter this. At the end of December, I'm going to choose somebody at random out of anyone that follows those directions, and as long as you qualify based on following me on Twitter and subscribing, you're going to win yourself a Super Famicom system. So thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode. Hey YouTube, this is Adam again with Retro Repairs, and I got another video for you today. So I went shopping on eBay and I bought something that I wanted to try and fix up. So we're going to open this up and I'll show you what I've got. Alright, so we got 2 things here. Firstly, I'm going to start with the bottom one. One of these is non-working, one is working. So this is PlayStation Extreme Game. So just a kind of basic crappy X Games game. So really nothing exciting. The reason I bought it is because it's a long box PlayStation 1 game. This is what PS1 games came in when the console first launched. This is really long, kind of DVD, taller than a DVD case, thicker than a DVD case, which I kind of thought was cool. So whenever I see them for pretty cheap, I try and pick it up. I think this was like $6 or something. So again, not bad, just a cheap little add to the collection. But what this video is going to be all about is this guy here, Mario Party 3. So this is sold as non-working. I already see some corrosion and water damage in here. Anyways, non-working. Label's in rough shape. Label in the front's discolored. We're going to see what we need to do to get this working. So we're going to test this out first and see how she goes. So first things first, we're going to test out this N64 just to make sure that it's reading games properly. So on.
It's me, Mario.
Cool, so that's all good. Let's try throw this game in. Those pins actually don't look bad, but that shielding looks real bad. But let's try throw this in and see what happens. No signal. Still no signal. So, if I'm a gambling man, what I'm thinking is the problem here is that some of the traces on this main board are probably broken, so only thing to really do is crack it open and see what the damage is. So to open these, you need 2 game-bit screw, well, you have 2 game-bit screws, so you need one of these little bits that is built to take these security screws out. So I'm going to take those out right away. And open up the casing. So, wow, that's rusty. So this has very clearly gotten wet. Next thing we got to do is remove the casing, or this shielding here, with these two small Phillips screws. I actually need a smaller screwdriver for this. Oh, I can't even get that screw out. Let's try this guy here. That's seized right in there. See if I have something that fits a little bit better. Okay, so I've managed to loosen up this one screw that's not as bad. So we're going to take that out. This one in the corner here, though, that's rusted out right there. I've done a couple things. I've tried hitting it with a wire brush. I've tried using some penetrating oil, and I really cannot get it to move. So I have a feeling that we may have to kind of break the shielding and pry it out. So for now, that's exactly what I'm going to do, actually. Just kind of rip this out. Okay, so kind of prying with it a bit, I actually broke this board a bit, which there's really nothing that runs through here, so that's not a huge deal, but obviously it's not ideal, especially since this is the side with the label. So I am going to have to get this screw out of here somehow and try and salvage this cover. But let's turn to this board and try and sort out what the problem is. So looking at the pins, they're pretty rough, but there's this layer of wear up here, which definitely could cause some broken traces. And same on the back. I'm going to give this whole board a good clean so we can get a better look at it. So, as we can kind of see, let's zoom in a bit. As you can see around here, around this corner here, this is definitely some corrosion underneath this solder mask. That's kind of bubbling up, and if we pick it away, we can get to copper under there. On this side, this right here could be right there. It could be a break here. There could be one here. So, I guess let's try and follow some of these traces and see if I can find a fault. So, grabbing the multimeter. And we're just going to follow up each of these traces. So, follow. And so on. So I'm going to check these, and if I find a fault, I will come back. Okay, so I have found a break in this board here, and it's right here on pin 43. So don't know if we can really make it out, but you see that darker spot right here? That's a break on this trace. So to try and follow this trace, you see it goes up under this chip and goes up under this chip, and my guess is it connects somewhere here. Running my multimeter all the way across this chip, I get no continuity or anything near there. So I tried looking up a schematic for this board and I couldn't find anything. One way to find out exactly where this pin is supposed to terminate is to remove this chip, but a slightly easier way is I pry up a little bit of the solder mask just above the break with a knife and expose some copper. So now, to guarantee, or so I can test to make sure that this is a break here, test there and we're good, test on this copper and we're not good. And from the copper to pin number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I think we're at. Yeah, pin 14. So we need to connect this pin to pin 14 of this chip. So I'm going to grab a jumper wire and we're going to do exactly that and see if this maybe is the solution. Okay, so the real trick here is going to be finding a good place to solder to, which is no real easy task here. So what I'm actually going to do is try and scrape away more of this solder mask so that I can get a spot here on this trace that's high enough that it's out of the way, but I can also solder to. So here we can pretty clearly see where this break was, right there. So just to be sure, test there to there, we're good. There to there, good. There to there, nothing. Here to here, good. Here to here, nothing. So that's clearly where the break is. So this is actually a very small repair. And what I'm going to use is a very, very small piece of some jumper wire. So this jumper wire that I have is actually stranded, which works well. So I'm only going to use actually a tiny bit of that strand. So I'm going to get that trimmed and I'll show you what I mean. So this is the wire that I'm going to use. It's a stranded wire, so very small bits of wire here. And I'm going to use probably 2 or 3 strands of this. And I think this wire comes with 8. So I'm going to start by trying to twist it together. And then I'm going to try and put some solder on it. So I'm going to grab my flux pen and then just add some flux to this piece of the wire right there. It untwisted a bit. So add some more flux. And then I'm going to grab my soldering iron. Got the iron, put some solder on it, wipe it off, then load up some more solder. And this should wick some of the solder onto that wire. So what this will do is make it easier for solder to, or basically for it to be soldered in place, but also kind of bind the wire together so that it doesn't untwist itself as easily. Okay. So let's cut that off. I'm going to cut it off a little bit longer than I really need. And put that right there so I don't lose it. So now, put some solder in place there. And I'm gonna try and coat that whole surface just with some solder. So just like so. Let's wipe that off. Now I should be able to grab that wire, hold it in place, and heat it up again and solder over that gap. unfortunately there was an issue with the recording here, but all you do is put the jumper in place and then run your soldering iron with solder already on the tip over the length of it, and it will hold it in place. Trim the jumper to fit and it's good to go. Okay, so I have the game in here now. Got hooked up to the TV, and let's see what happens. So far, oh, there it goes. And we're in action. There we go, look at that. So let's make sure everything seems to work properly. So far, so good. Push start. And there's even a save game in there, so that's showing me that the memory chip's working good. So this board is sort of repaired, aside from the fact that I broke it a little bit. So the next step here is going to be to try and clean this out and get this screw out of here, because I want to save the front of this. What I'll likely end up doing is, rather than reusing these, I'll steal some shielding off a cheap sports game or something and swap them out. So I'm going to grab a game and get the parts out of there and see if we can't get this screw out. Okay, so what I am having a little bit of luck with doing is using a pair of old crappy side cutters. You don't want to use good ones, as you see here. I've actually already broken these. But grabbing in here and just trying, oops, there I just hit that, got that screw head off. So that's one way of doing it, just cutting that head off, and then might try and see if I can grab this and twist it out. Not sure if this is actually doing anything or not. Well, ultimately, I think I'm going to leave that post in there and then just not screw it back together, but I'm going to give this a clean first. So you really don't need to watch me clean. I'm just going to use some alcohol and a toothbrush and see what we can do with this. So I've been scrubbing away at this for quite a while, and honestly I think a lot of this is really etched into the plastic. Like, even scraping it hard doesn't seem to do anything. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that, I think. However, I am going to, sorry Brett Favre, I'm going to harvest some good RF shielding from inside this guy, since this is a $3 game and Mario Party 3 is in good condition, a $60, $70 game, so that's an easy trade in my opinion. So again, pretty straightforward to open these up. This one came from a place called the Movie Network, apparently. Whoops. Kind of interesting. Remember to rewind your N64 games, please, when you're renting them, so that the next person can enjoy them without having to rewind them first. It's just common courtesy, right? And as you can see here, this is significantly better condition shielding. And I'm going to use, I think, the newer screws as well, since, again, they're not completely rusted out. This little plastic bit is broken, so I guess I'm going to have to use the old plastic bit. We'll give it another bit of a cleanup just for good measure, but it's just plastic. It's going to be fine. Okay, so now that I have the shielding out, we're going to grab the front shell for Mario Party 3 and begin reassembly. So just make sure we got the right piece in the right spot. There we go. And then that's the right board, yep. So the chips on an N64 game point towards the back. So make sure they're going in right. They probably just won't fit if you're trying to force it in the wrong way. And then throw this screw in here. You want this to be fairly tight, since in this case there's really only one screw now holding the shielding together. Not that it really needs the second one, this isn't going anywhere. And we'll put on the back shell. I'm going to put the original security screws in here. And there we have it, Mario Party 3. So we're going to throw that in the system again just to make sure everything's together and working right. So it's there in the N64, power on. Helps if I turn the TV on. And there we go, Mario Party 3. So that's more or less how you repair a trace on a bad mainboard of a game. So that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and be sure to tune in to my next one. Subscribe to my channel, hit that like button below, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.